Let's cut the bullshit. We've got straight up marketing advice. You should use it.
Just drop the jargon.
Adam and Simon's Bullshit Busters.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Adam and Simon Bullshit Busters. My name is Simon Batchelor.
I am Adam Bastock.
And this week we are discussing what does sustainability mean for my business. So this is part of a new season of podcasts and videos that we have created. And this is, I guess, one of the first ones we're doing all about how to run an ethical and sustainable small business. So Adam, to kick us off, why don't you talk to us a little bit and explain, I guess, what we mean about sustainability in this context?
Yeah, I think sustainability is one of those words that gets thrown around quite a lot and is not always consistent in how it's used. So the definition that I'd like to be kind of bringing to mind here is really sustainability in every sense. So it is financial sustainability, it is operational sustainability, it is environmental sustainability, and it's all those things that are very tightly linked. I don't really think we're in a position anymore where sustainability in its kind of green sense is suddenly an optional thing to tick into or to kind of adopt. It really has to underpin everything else you're doing. And that's what we want to talk through today, really, is just what that looks like on a day-to-day basis for a business, really. And I think that for me, the key message really is that you're already making sustainability decisions in that green sense. You're just doing it one way or the other, where you might be thinking of it in an unsustainable way, essentially. And those are the decisions you're making. And it's about shifting that to go, rather than buying the plastic packaging, why not buy the cardboard packaging instead, or change your product so you don't need any packaging at all? It's those small nudges that I think we really want to explore.
So when you're talking to small businesses, which I know you do quite a lot as you tour the country, do you see any examples of, I guess, sort of maybe obvious or easy decisions that people might be able to shift their thinking on without even knowing?
Yeah, I think packaging is the one that always comes up because it's the most visible. And so people always look at that first, which is a little bit frustrating because packaging from a carbon footprint point of view is often one of the lesser footprints of the entire thing. But broadly, I'd say that there are 5 different areas of business operations you need to look at. And then I'll run through an example of a company that I spoke to that really highlights how it embeds into all these different sectors. So within the business, I've got a graphic actually that I'm going to pop onto screen quickly. That underpin your business, right? So I view it as these separate pillars where you've got finance, you've got marketing, you've got operations, you've got recruitment, technology, and then people see sustainability as this sort of 6th column that sits outside of all those things. So finance obviously underpins your business in terms of cash flow, marketing, acquiring new customers, operations, how do you get your product to customers, whatever that's physical or virtual, recruitment, how do you retain your staff, and then technology, how are you delivering your services effectively. This is what we should be looking at, really, is sustainability is underpinning all of these. And the example I was going to give is I was at one of the eBay roadshows in Leicester and spoke to a company that sell model railway kits online. So people who are hobbyists who are making kind of model rail tracks. And that's not personally the kind of the first business that jumps to mind when you think sustainability and being on the bleeding edge of that kind of sustainability front. What they were doing, though, is they were spending probably about 200 quid a month with a waste management company, throwing away all of these kind of metal and plastic figurines at the end of the month that were just excess that they didn't really need, that were surplus to the process. Now, they started boxing those up and selling them as mystery boxes. And then so they sent some of these mystery boxes to online YouTubers and kind of hobbyists who are big fans, and they wanted this. And, it was very cheap to free level of random trees or sheds and things like this that they could then incorporate or experiment with in terms of their model making. The result of that is that they started saving 200 quid a month on their waste management. So that's a financial one ticked. In terms of marketing, they ended up getting a lot more traction on that. So they had a few thousand people a month viewing videos that were then featured in of these mystery boxes. So it's a whole new marketing channel that had opened up as a result of doing this. Operationally, it meant that they weren't throwing away as much stuff and that they'd save that and they could box it up and send it out to new customers and attract those. So again, it underpinned that operational thing. recruitment, okay, maybe didn't have a huge impact on their recruitment and retention element, but they're now reaching into our new customer audience.
Might do
Exactly.
in the future.
And it's a fun thing that shows an engagement and a thoughtfulness. And then there's a technology element as well, where all of that stuff, though, delivering it through Shopify, and they're able to reach a new audience through YouTube. So maybe not strong on the technology front, but as a result of doing all those things, they're seeing a 7% growth in their online web traffic and sales as a result of that. Not directly from the marketing from the boxes, but as a result of the marketing from those mystery boxes, where they're now attracting an entirely new audience. This is where I think sustainability has to come in, and it underpins everything you're doing, and it links everything. That one decision, that wasn't the result of someone coming in and doing an audit and saying, well, why are you throwing all this stuff away? It was just one of the members of staff picking stuff up and go, why are we throwing all this stuff away? People will use it. It's still sort of useful. It's just not the best quality stuff. Why don't we kind of sell it out and send it to someone? So I think it's really that it has to embed everything you're doing, and it has to be fundamental to the things that you're looking at. And it's no single decision. It's every decision that you make every day, from the toilet roll that you're ordering through to your end user supplier, through to the, as you say, the waste management report you get through and go, well, actually, why are we throwing away 10 kilos of product every month when we could just be selling that? Or surely there's something else we could be doing with it. So for me, that's really what sustainability is it's the small decisions and small nudges that you're making in everyday operations. There's a bit of a ramble, a bit of a rant from me there, but treat yourself to one of those. I've not had one in a while.
But I think the interesting thing clearly illustrates it is that wasn't an intentionally sustainably driven decision. That was this would be fun, and I think we can do something useful and productive with this byproduct of the process, and therefore it sort of inadvertently was a sustainability decision that actually was a really good one. So I think it goes back to the beginning very neatly there by saying, well, actually, you are probably already making a lot of decisions in your business that have a sustainability follow-on impact. And in fact, by starting to just look at maybe some of the higher level things you're doing, or maybe looking at the process from the other side and going, well, what comes out of this process, or what goes into this process that we're doing? Is there then a financial decision you could make that would make that more sustainable? Is there something we could do with this financial model that actually might make it more attractive from a recruitment point of view? An obvious one maybe being switching the company pension over to a more sustainable pension fund or provider or whatever. That's a very, on the face of it, simple change. Lots of providers will do it for you, but actually from a financial point of view could be really beneficial, because people always love people moving pensions, always going to give you a good deal. And also from a recruitment point of view, that's a great thing to be able to offer. It's also good for staff retention. It's another thing you can put out to avoid some green hushing, which you can check out in the other video we did. Something you can talk about. So even just that one thing, which is potentially quite a boring thing that no one really talks about, because there's the obvious easy wins, aren't there, like the supply chain. But I think it's also making sure that your business is just healthy. Is the cash flow as good as it could be? Is there anything you can do to improve cash flow? Because if the cash flow is better, then you can make longer term, more sustainable decisions in the business easier. Whereas if you're month to month, hand to mouth, as it were, then you may be painted into a corner of, well, we have to go with the cheapest option because we physically can't afford to do anything else. So I guess the sustainable decision, as you say, may not be knocking on the door and declaring itself as a sustainable thing you've got to think about, but you may already be dealing with that day to day in the business.
Precisely, and I think there's a level of impact here as well. If you take the sustainability thing to mean purely green, there is, with a pension fund, I think there's a great example there where that's going to have a much bigger impact on your kind of net zero sustainability journey than something like packaging, which is, plastic packaging is actually quite light in terms of carbon emissions. It's very bad from a litter point of view and from a kind of environmental damage point of view. But if your pension is actively investing in oil and gas infrastructure, then that is environmentally unsustainable, and therefore it is also financially unsustainable, because that's not going to be an industry that grows over the next 10, 15, 20 years as we have to move away from that, because if we don't, then as we saw during COVID, if societal kind of elements start collapsing, then the business environment will collapse as a result of that. So you have to start thinking of this as a much more structural thing, and it is that every daily interaction you make is within your power to then change. This isn't about having. It's not just about having paper packaging that's easily recycled compared to plastic stuff. That is a great step, but you need to not stop there. It needs to go far beyond that and look at, well, actually, why are we throwing out so much stuff? Start tracking that. Why are you throwing away all this excess stock? Or, why haven't you thought about your pension? Who are you banking with? Is it with HSBC or Barclays, where, they've got quite a lot of negative impacts there within the oil and gas industry compared to someone like Starling or, an alternative provider who's a little bit more on it and isn't actively funding in that. So, because the risk there is you're actively investing in your own downfall, I think is the summary of it, is that if you're pursuing high emission industries, and that's naturally going to create an issue further down the line. So I think for me, sustainability is really about reflecting at every point you make a decision during that day, from the packaging that you're ordering, which is a fair thing, through to when you sign up a new employee and choose their pension fund and look at that, through to when you're doing the rubbish rounds and you're starting to throw out a load of stock, and go, well, actually challenge that and go, is this something that we can sustain financially and environmentally? That is what sustainability means. It is to, continue in the future. And I think that's the problem, is that if your factory is underwater because your pension fund is actively investing in fossil fuel infrastructure, that is not sustainable. And therefore you need to address.
And I think it's also that there may well be some very high impact decisions you can make in your company that aren't changing your entire business model. And I think when you actually start to look at what the impact is, and we're going to do a whole other video about this, what is that big impact thing you can change? It may be that actually that decision is higher up and separated entirely from operations. You don't know yet. So I guess maybe if you're sort of thinking about the things we've been talking about in this video, we'd love to know in the comments if you have been inspired to look at your business in a different way, if you've made a change, or if you've got a question about a change you're thinking of making and you're wondering whether that's going to have an impact. Is it worthwhile? Do let us know, because we'd love to either make a video about it or talk to you about it. So if you have found this video useful, and if you think there's someone else who might like to learn more about the sustainability decisions they could be making in their business, please do share it with them. We'd really appreciate it. So thanks very much, everybody, for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you soon.
Let's cut the bullshit. We've got straight up marketing advice. You should use it.
Just drop the job.
Adam and Simon.